According to the National Electrical Code, NEC, there are specific requirements for burying 120 volts wiring, whether it's in conduit or direct buried using underground feeder off cable. These requirements are outlined in NEC sections 300.5b and 334.30a and b. Firstly, when using 3 wires in conduit, NEC section 300.5b specifies a minimum burial depth of 6 inches, which is 152 mm for underground raceways. This includes conduit that contains conductors or cables. Secondly, for direct buried UF cable, NEC section 334.30 requires a minimum burial depth of 12 inches, equivalent to 305 mm. If the direct buried UF cable is located under driveways, parking lots, or other areas subject to vehicular traffic, NEC section 334.30b increases the minimum burial depth to 18 inches, which is 457 mm. There are some additional notes to consider. All UF cables must be listed for underground use. This means they are specifically designed and tested to withstand the conditions present in underground environments, such as moisture and soil composition. The conduit used should be made of polyvinyl chloride, PVC, or other materials approved for underground applications. This ensures that the conduit can withstand the corrosive elements present in the soil. It is important to seal the conduit with watertight fittings at each end, especially where the cable emerges from the ground. This prevents water and other contaminants from entering the conduit, which could damage the conductors or create a safety hazard. It is important to note that the exact burial depth may vary depending on local codes and regulations. These codes and regulations may be more stringent than the NEC requirements, so it is always a good idea to consult with the local building inspector or electrical authority for specific requirements in the applicable jurisdiction. Understanding and adhering to these NEC requirements is crucial for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical installations. Improper burial depths can lead to damage to the cables or conduits, creating a risk of electrical shock or fire. It's also important to select the correct type of cable for the intended application. UF cable is designed for direct burial, while other types of cable may require additional protection, such as being installed in conduit. When selecting conduit, choose a material that is suitable for underground use and can withstand the environmental conditions present in the area. PVC conduit is a common choice, but other materials, such as rigid metal conduit, may also be used in certain applications. When installing conduit, make sure to use proper fittings and connectors to ensure a watertight seal. This will help to prevent water and other contaminants from entering the conduit and damaging the conductors. It's also important to properly support the conduit to prevent it from sagging or shifting over time. When backfilling the trench after installing the cable or conduit, be careful not to damage the wiring. Use a shovel or other tool to carefully place the soil around the cable or conduit, and avoid dropping large rocks or other objects onto the wiring. Once the trench has been backfilled, make sure to compact the soil to prevent settling. This will help to ensure that the cable or conduit remains at the proper depth over time. Finally, remember to document the location of the underground wiring. This will help to prevent accidental damage during future excavation projects. You can use a map or other record to show the location of the wiring, and it is also a good idea to mark the location with stakes or other markers. By following these guidelines, ensure the safe and compliant installation of 120 volts wiring, whether it's in conduit or direct buried using UF cable. This knowledge will aid in designing electrical systems. It will also lead to a well-executed install that follows regulatory guidelines, safety protocols, and best practices. For instance, consider a residential project where the goal is to supply power to an outdoor lighting fixture. The electrical design calls for running 120 volts wiring from the main panel inside the house to a post where the light fixture will be mounted. After reviewing the site and considering the aesthetic preferences, a decision to bury the wiring underground is made. To ensure compliance with NEC regulations, the installation process must adhere to specific guidelines. Firstly, if individual wires are selected instead of cable, the wires must be run inside a conduit approved for underground use, such as PVC conduit. According to NEC section 300.5b, the conduit containing the three wires, which are typically a hot wire, a neutral wire, and a ground wire, must be buried at least 6 inches deep. This measurement ensures that the conduit is adequately protected from physical damage due to minor digging or landscaping activities. Secondly, if UF cable is chosen for its durability and suitability for direct burial, the installation requirements differ. According to NEC section 334.30a, UF cable must be buried at a minimum depth of 12 inches. This additional depth provides enhanced protection against potential damage from shovels or other tools used in gardening or minor construction. If the UF cable runs under a driveway or area subject to vehicular traffic, the burial depth must be increased to 18 inches as stipulated in NEC section 334.30b. This increased depth protects the cable from the weight and vibration of vehicles, which could otherwise compromise its integrity. Before beginning the physical installation, it is essential to verify that the selected UF cable is listed for underground use. This listing confirms that the cable has been tested and approved to withstand the harsh conditions of direct burial, including moisture, soil acidity, and temperature variations. Additionally, the conduit used at each end where the cable emerges from the ground must be sealed with watertight fittings. These fittings prevent water and debris from entering the conduit, which could corrode the conductors and create electrical hazards. The selection of appropriate fittings and their correct installation are critical for maintaining the integrity of the electrical system. To ensure full compliance with local regulations, contacting the local building inspector or electrical authority is recommended. These authorities can provide specific guidance on local amendments to the NEC and any additional requirements that must be met. Compliance with these local codes is not only a legal requirement but also ensures the safety and longevity of the electrical installation. Throughout the installation process, careful attention to detail is essential. The trench should be dug to the appropriate depth, ensuring a smooth and level bottom to prevent stress on the cable or conduit. After laying the cable or conduit, it should be carefully backfilled, and the soil compacted to prevent settling. Rocks and sharp objects should be removed from the backfill material to avoid damaging the wiring. Finally, the location of the buried wiring should be clearly marked on the site plan or with physical markers to prevent accidental damage during future landscaping or construction activities. By following these detailed steps and adhering to the NEC guidelines, the 120 volts wiring can be safely and reliably buried, providing power to the outdoor lighting fixture while minimizing the risk of electrical hazards. Another situation could involve an upgrade to a home's electrical system, specifically adding an outdoor receptacle for powering garden equipment or tools. To ensure the outdoor receptacle is safely and reliably powered, underground wiring is selected. The first step involves deciding between using individual wires run in conduit or utilizing UF cable for direct burial. If individual wires are chosen, NEC section 300.5b dictates that they must be encased in a conduit approved for underground use. This conduit, containing the hot, neutral, and ground wires, needs to be buried at a minimum depth of 6 inches. This depth provides a basic level of protection against incidental contact and minor disturbances in the soil. Alternatively, if UF cable is preferred for its direct burial capability, NEC section 334.30 specifies a minimum burial depth of 12 inches. The increased depth offers enhanced protection against physical damage from gardening tools or other digging activities. In situations where the UF cable is routed under a driveway or any area subject to vehicular traffic, NEC section 334.30b mandates a burial depth of 18 inches. This additional depth is necessary to safeguard the cable from the compressive forces and vibrations caused by vehicles, which could otherwise compromise the cable's insulation and conductivity. Before commencing the burial process, it is vital to confirm that the UF cable is explicitly listed for underground use. This certification ensures that the cable is manufactured to withstand the rigors of direct burial, including resistance to moisture, chemicals, and temperature fluctuations present in the soil. The conduit used at the points where the cable transitions from underground to above ground must be sealed with watertight fittings. These fittings prevent the ingress of water, soil, and other contaminants that could corrode the conductors and create a pathway for electrical faults. Proper sealing is crucial for maintaining the long-term reliability and safety of the electrical connection. Given that local codes and regulations may impose stricter requirements than the NEC, consulting the local building inspector or electrical authority is necessary. They can provide insights into local amendments and additional standards that must be followed. This consultation ensures that the installation adheres to all applicable regulations, thereby minimizing the risk of non-compliance and potential hazards. The installation process should be executed with meticulous attention to detail. The trench must be dug to the specified depth, ensuring a smooth and debris-free trench bottom to prevent any undue stress on the cable or conduit. After laying the cable or conduit, careful backfilling is essential. The soil should be compacted in layers to provide uniform support and prevent settling over time. It is important to remove any rocks, sharp objects, or other materials that could damage the cable or conduit during backfilling. Accurate documentation of the underground wiring's location is crucial for future reference and to prevent accidental damage during subsequent digging or construction activities. This can be achieved through detailed site plans, photographs, or the placement of physical markers along the cable route. By meticulously following these steps and adhering to the NEC and local regulations, the outdoor receptacle can be safely and reliably powered via underground wiring. This approach ensures a durable and compliant electrical installation, minimizing the risk of electrical hazards and promoting long-term system performance. These examples highlight the importance of understanding and applying NEC guidelines for burying 120 volts wiring. Whether installing outdoor lighting or upgrading electrical systems, adherence to these codes ensures safety, compliance, and the longevity of electrical installations. Another scenario could involve installing a submersible pump in a well. The pump requires a 120 volts power supply, and the wiring needs to be buried to protect it from the elements and potential damage. According to NEC section 300.5b, if individual wires are used, they must be run in a conduit approved for underground use, such as PVC conduit. The conduit containing the wires, including a hot wire, a neutral wire, and a ground wire, must be buried at a minimum depth of 6 inches. This depth provides a basic level of protection against minor digging and landscaping activities. Alternatively, if UF cable is used, NEC section 334.30 requires a minimum burial depth of 12 inches. The increased depth offers enhanced protection against physical damage from shovels or other tools used in gardening or construction. If the UF cable runs under a driveway or area subject to vehicular traffic, NEC section 334.30b increases the minimum burial depth to 18 inches. This increased depth protects the cable from the weight and vibration of vehicles, which could otherwise compromise its integrity. The selected UF cable must be listed for underground use. The conduit should be sealed with watertight fittings at each end where the cable emerges from the ground. Consulting with the local building inspector or electrical authority is recommended to ensure compliance with local codes and regulations. The trench should be dug to the appropriate depth, ensuring a smooth and level bottom to prevent stress on the cable or conduit. Backfilling should be done carefully, compacting the soil to prevent settling. The location of the buried wiring should be documented to prevent accidental damage during future excavation projects. In agricultural settings, burying 120 volts wiring may be necessary to power irrigation systems, outbuildings, or livestock watering stations. Due to the increased risk of physical damage from farm equipment and animals, the burial depth requirements may be more stringent than in residential settings. If individual wires are used, NEC section 300.5b still applies, requiring a minimum burial depth of 6 inches for conduit containing the wires. However, given the potential for heavy equipment to traverse the area, it may be prudent to increase the burial depth for added protection. If UF cable is used, NEC section 334.30 requires a minimum burial depth of 12 inches. However, if the cable runs under areas subject to vehicular traffic or heavy equipment, NEC section 334.30b mandates a burial depth of 18 inches. Again, it may be wise to increase the burial depth beyond the minimum requirement to provide additional protection. The selected UF cable must be listed for underground use. The conduit should be sealed with watertight fittings at each end where the cable emerges from the ground. Consulting with the local building inspector or electrical authority is especially important in agricultural settings, as local codes and regulations may have specific requirements for electrical installations in these environments. The trench should be dug to the appropriate depth, ensuring a smooth and level bottom to prevent stress in the cable or conduit. Backfilling should be done carefully, compacting the soil to prevent settling. The location of the buried wiring should be clearly marked and documented to prevent accidental damage during farming activities. Another case may involve a landscape lighting system in a commercial property. To power the lighting fixtures, 120 volts wiring must be buried underground. According to NEC section 300.5b, if individual wires are used, they must be run in a conduit approved for underground use. The conduit containing the wires must be buried at a minimum depth of 6 inches. If UF cable is used, NEC section 334.30 requires a minimum burial depth of 12 inches. If the UF cable runs under driveways, parking lots, or other areas subject to vehicular traffic, NEC section 334.30b mandates a burial depth of 18 inches. Because commercial properties often have more traffic and activity than residential properties, it is important to carefully consider the potential for physical damage to the buried wiring. It may be wise to increase the burial depth beyond the minimum requirements to provide additional protection. The selected UF cable must be listed for underground use. The conduit should be sealed with watertight fittings at each end where the cable emerges from the ground. The location of the buried wiring should be accurately documented and marked to prevent accidental damage during landscaping or construction activities. These examples demonstrate the versatility of underground wiring and the importance of adhering to NEC guidelines to ensure safety, compliance, and reliability. Regardless of the application, careful planning, proper installation techniques, and adherence to local codes are essential for a successful and long-lasting installation. The specific requirements for burying 120 volts wiring, whether in conduit or direct buried using UF cable, are designed to protect the wiring from physical damage, moisture, and other environmental factors. By following these requirements, electrical systems can be installed safely and reliably, minimizing the risk of electrical hazards and ensuring long-term performance. The National Electrical Code, NEC, provides comprehensive guidelines for electrical installations, including the burial depth of wiring. It is essential to consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes to ensure compliance with all requirements. Understanding and adhering to these regulations is crucial for electrical professionals and anyone involved in electrical work. Ignoring these guidelines can lead to dangerous situations, including electrical shock, fire, and equipment failure.